most students get these science questions wrong. Let's see if you can get them right. So I want you to pause the video as we're going on, try the questions, and then I'll walk you through them. Okay, so we're dealing with the solar system. So before we even get started, let's just kind of take a look and see what we're reading about. So it says motion of objects in the solar system. And notice right here, it says most celestial objects. Celestial means space, something that is in space or positioned or relating to the sky or space. Okay, we've got two images here, and it looks like we're dealing with spectrums. We're dealing with light. So we have blue and red, and they look pretty much the same. Even the light in the middle is the same, but the lines are different. Okay, not all objects in space exhibit the same motion as galaxies. Okay, so in this figure here, it looks like we have the sun on one end and a planet that is orbiting, that is going around, and these two words here. So this word right here is aphelion, and this word right here is perhelion, okay? Not that you really need to know how to say it, but there you go. Okay, and then it is clear from the first and second laws. So we're looking at this image, and looks like we've got the semi-major axis, which they actually had an axis on the last one, so we know that maybe it's circling or something. So we have orbital period, how long it takes to orbit the sun, and we have our different planets. So actually this semi-major axis is not orbiting, because that's the other one. It's really going to be the distance from the sun. Okay, and when we look at the questions, we have 5 questions that we're going to be going over. This one here relates to figure 3, figure 2, figure 3. This one actually relates to figure 1. So all 4 of those are relating to the figures. And then this last one here is actually taking a look and using a little bit of background knowledge to answer. This is going to be a hard question, but we can do this, friends. Okay, so let's dive in and do the readings. Motion of objects in the solar system. Most celestial objects have some form of motion. The motion of each object is studied to understand the universe over time. The motion of galaxies is used to study the change in the size of the universe since it was formed. In 1920, an astronomer named Edwin Hubble noticed that the light from the galaxies was redshifted and stated that the galaxies were moving away from the Earth. Figure 1 compares the spectrum of a redshifted galaxy with the laboratory reference. So down below we have the laboratory reference, and notice how the lines are different than the galaxy spectrum above it. The galaxy spectrum, they're shifted slightly to the right or to the red. Not all objects in space exhibit the same motion as galaxies. For example, planets do not crash or fall as the sun's gravity keeps them in their orbits. This is the reason that the distance of the planet from the sun plays an important role in determining its orbital speed. To prove that a planet's distance from the sun constantly changes, the first and second laws stated by Johannes Kepler can be used. According to the first law, all planets move in elliptical orbits around the sun, where the sun is at one focus of the orbital ellipse. Kepler's second law explains that the effect of the sun's gravity on the orbital speed of a planet, as it says that the orbital velocity of an object depends on gravity, which changes based on the distance from the sun. The gravitational strength varies with distance, as it is greater on objects that are nearer, causing them to move faster. Figure 2 illustrates the laws by showing the points where a planet is nearest and farthest from the sun, labeled as aphelion and perhelion. It is clear from the first and second laws that a planet is at different distances from the sun while in its orbit, which affects its orbital speed. This suggests that the orbital speeds of every planet will be different from one another. This can be further explained using Kepler's third law, which relates the change of the orbital period to the change in the orbital distance from a celestial object. According to this law, the squares of the orbital period of any planet are proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis of its orbit. Figure 3 shows the orbital period of planets in the solar system. Okay, friends, let's answer these questions. You've got this. Question number 21. The orbital period of planets in the solar system is shown in figure 3. If the Earth had been closer to the sun when the solar system formed, what would its orbital period, year length, have been compared to what it is now? Okay, so let's look back at that figure 3. Okay, so here it is. Notice how we have these right here. It really just, my very educated mother just served us 9 pizzas, right? So those are the planets. And so we have the planets that are closer to the sun. So we have Mercury, Venus, right? Those have a shorter orbital period, shorter time in years. So if we were to look at this, it looks like maybe Mercury takes maybe a little, far less than a year to orbit or to circle the sun. And Venus takes maybe almost a year to orbit the sun. But let's look at the question. So if the Earth was closer to the sun when it was formed, what would it have looked like? So the same, because the Earth would still orbit the sun. Would it be the same? No, because it's based on where it's located, how far out it's from the sun, right? So that's not our answer. The same, because all planet orbits are the same size. No, they're not. The chart shows that they are completely different and that it depends upon how close they are to the sun. So that's not it. Longer, because the sun's gravity would be stronger. Okay, let's look at this. If it was closer to the sun down here, would its orbital time be longer like Saturn and Jupiter? No, it wouldn't, right? It would be shorter right here. Shorter because the Earth would revolve in a smaller orbit. So this is our answer right there. If you're still here in the middle of the video, I want you to pause and tell me, what is your favorite planet? Okay, because we all should have some favorite planet. Okay. Number 22. The average speed of Earth in its orbit around the sun is 29.7 kilometers per second. Well, that's pretty fast. Okay, based on figure 2 and Kepler's second law, what would be the speed of the Earth at its perihelion? Okay, so we are going to go back to the chart, and here we have the sun, and this is the perihelion, right? So we know, just looking at this, that the perihelion is when the Earth is closest to the sun. So if we look back right in here, it says Kepler's second law explains the effect that the sun's gravity on the orbital speed of a planet, as it says that the orbital velocity of an object depends on gravity, which changes based on its distance from the sun, right? So whether it's closer to the sun or whether it's farther from the sun, it is going to change. Okay, the gravitational strength varies with the distance as it is greater on objects that are nearer, causing them to move faster. So right here is the answer, right? Objects that are nearer, causing them to move faster. So going back to the question, essentially, when it's close to the sun, what's going to happen? So much faster than the Earth's average speed. Well, is it going to be much faster? I don't know. Let's look at letter B. Slightly more than the Earth's average orbital speed. Significantly less. Well, we know it's not less, right? We know it's going to be more. Approximately the same. No, we know that it's going to be more because it is closer to the sun, right? It's in its perihelion. Okay, so we have to decide between much faster and slightly faster. So let's look and see if there's any clue on if it's much faster or slightly faster. The gravitational strength varies with distance as it is greater on objects that are near, causing them to move faster. So because of the way it's worded, we're going to put B as our answer. So it's slightly faster. If it was much faster, the wording would have been a lot different, right? The wording would have been maybe saying when it's closer, it is significantly faster, right? But if it's just saying it's faster, right? That's not emphasizing it's much faster. So B is going to be the answer. So really using the wording helped you distinguish between A and B, but then everything else helped you eliminate C and D. Okay, this question is actually marked easy, so we can take a little break before we get to some hard ones. Okay, based on the data in figure 3, how do the orbits of planets around the sun in our solar systems compare? Okay, let's go back to number 3. So figure 3, how do the orbits compare, right? So we're looking at orbital period. So here we have the ones that are closer to the sun, they have a shorter orbital period, The ones that are further from the sun have a longer orbital period, right? It takes longer to circle the sun. Okay, so planets with larger orbits have a shorter orbital period. That just imagine you're running in a circle. Here's someone, they have a short little circle. They can run a lot faster, right? Someone with a larger orbit or a larger circle, it's going to take them longer to go around. So this is saying that if you have a bigger circle, you go fast, or that you are faster, that it takes you less time than the smaller circle. No, it doesn't, right? A lot further, so it takes a lot longer. Okay, this one is actually opposite. So planets with smaller orbits have longer orbital periods. So that's saying someone in the planet in the smaller circle, they just go, it takes them a lot longer to go around. No, that's not it at all, right? The closer it is to the sun, the faster it's going to go. So the orbital period is longer for a planet with a longer orbit. Yeah, if it's farther from the sun and has a longer ways to go around, it's going to take them longer, right? But let's look at D. All planets have the same orbital period regardless of orbit size. No, the chart would look much different if that was the case. So C here is our answer. Question 24. Scientists study spectral lines from galaxies to determine their movement relative to Earth. Data was recorded for galaxy X on the spectrum ranging from 400 nm, the blue end, to 700 nm, the red end. Scientists observed that the spectral lines for galaxy X appeared only between 520 and 690. Based on figure 1, what does this data provide evidence for Hubble's observation that galaxies are moving away from the Earth? Okay, let's go back to figure 1. So notice here what we have going on in figure 1. So it says in the paragraph, again, that Hubble noticed that the light from the galaxies was redshifted and stated that galaxies were moving away from Earth. Okay, so our laboratory reference, notice how it's more spread throughout. Those lines are spread throughout. Whereas the figure above, it's shifted to the right. It's shifted more to the red. And so red means longer wavelengths and the blue means the shorter wavelengths. So let's go back to the question. Okay, so yes, the light is redshifted to longer wavelengths. Yeah, right? It is. It just moved over, right? You look back at the chart and look at how all of these, they're just moved over to the right. They're moved over closer to the red, right? So let's hold on to that answer. So B, no, the light is blue shifted. Have they moved over to the blue side? No, they moved over to the red side. So that's not it. C, no, spectral lines only appear over a narrow range. We're really focusing on the red and the blue, right? So that's not it. Yes, the spectral lines are evenly spaced out at all wavelengths. Are they evenly spaced out? Look at this. Is that evenly spaced? No, it's shifted over to the red. And therefore, A is our answer, right? Yes, the light is redshifted to longer wavelengths. So is our answer. Question 25. So this one is not referring back to any of the charts, and really it's just the overall reading and having to use a little bit of maybe background knowledge or having to just think about the wording. This one is considered a hard question, but we've got this. Okay, which statement correctly analyzes Kepler's work? So Kepler's work focused only on the study of unpredictable motions of objects in the solar system. Think about what we read. Is it focusing on unpredictable motions? No, right? He's a scientist. He's finding this is the predictable, right? When objects are closer to the sun, they're moving faster, right? He was figuring out these things. It's not unpredictable at all. Okay, Kepler's work on planetary motion is evidence for the heliocentric. Heliocentric means like sun. It's centered on an object, or it's centered in this case on the sun. Okay, so for the heliocentric model, then not everything orbited the Earth. So a long time ago, well before scientists like Galileo, they believed that everything circled around the Earth, right? But here, scientists from well before Kepler and then also Kepler are saying, no, it focused, our solar system rotates or orbits the sun, right? So his work is providing evidence that we're circling the sun, not the Earth, right? Okay, so let's hold that one. Okay, C. Kepler's work on the orbital period is based solely on observational data and not defined by mathematical relationships. Okay, just think about this. Not defined by mathematical relationships. So this is a scientist that is well respected. Are they going to respect him if it's not based on, if it's just observational? I mean, you and I can observe anything. Does that make us professional in this field? No, right? So he had to have the data that went with it. So just looking at that question and analyzing it, not it. Okay, D. Kepler's work about the arrangement of objects in the solar system was based on assumptions and lacked empirical evidence. This is the same thing as C, right? He is a well-respected scientist that had evidence, right? So B, just getting rid of the other ones, just thinking about a well-respected scientist will help you get through. Friends, you made it to the end. Good job, especially because some of those questions were a little tricky, especially those last two questions are marked as hard, and most students actually do get those last two questions wrong. Even we had two medium level questions, which a lot of people get wrong, and just one easy question. So this was a tough test, okay? But I don't want you to stop right here. I want you to watch these next videos, study up on the science. You've got this, my friends. Believe in yourself just like I believe in you. Peace and God bless you.